What's up guys, welcome to Reef HotSpot. My name is Gavin and today I'm going to show you how to properly acclimate your saltwater fish. Before we actually get into the process today, I want to make sure everybody understands why it is so important that we acclimate these fish. So I'm going to do a little sketch here and kind of show you how that works. Alright guys, so I'm going to give you a quick crash course on some anatomy and physiology. So what we're looking at is a sodium potassium pump complex, right? So we've got Na+/K+. That is this little contraption right here, and essentially how this works is this epithelial cell, or essentially skin tissue, has sodium flow through it like this. So it'll go through whichever channel is open. That's passive, so there's no like energy being used up there. Now what's not passive is right here. So we have ATP, which is consumed. ATP is energy, so anything a fish eats gets converted into ATP eventually after a lot of biochemical processes. And so that ATP is constantly getting consumed, which is causing our sodium potassium pump to open and close, right? So we've got potassium running like this sort of clockwise motion, and our sodium is flowing through on the circular things right there. And so you might be wondering, what does this have to do with our fish tank? So our fish tank is a salt solution, right? So we're often dealing with a lot of salt. So if my quarantine system is at 1.019 and my reef tank is at 1.026, I can't just go and take my fish and just throw it into my reef tank, because what that'll do is it will cause me to have a whole ton of sodium increase on the outside of the fish's cell. So this is relative to the fish. So that sodium increase will cause rapid diffusion across these channels, these sodium channels, because ions like to move from high concentration to low concentration. And so what that causes is it fills this space up with all kinds of sodium, which puts pressure on this cell, and so more ATP has to be consumed in order to alleviate that pressure. So it puts a lot of stress on the fish is what I'm trying to say here. And so essentially we don't want that to happen fast, we want it to happen slow. So what we do is called a drip acclimation, where we slowly add water from our reef tank into the water the fish is in, and then we do all kinds of stuff like bailing the water to kind of balance out the solution, the tank water inside that bucket. So hopefully this makes sense, and it'll make more sense as you see it in action going forward with this video. And so now that we kind of all understand why it's important to acclimate our fish, I'm going to go ahead and take you guys over to our fish section, and I'm going to pick out the fish that I'm going to be adding to my Red Sea tank right here. So today we're going to be adding a pair of pajama cardinals to the tank. They are a very common fish that we get out of the Philippines. Typically they're an incredibly hardy fish as well and do very well in captivity. In addition to that, they get along with the fish that we have in the tank right now. Currently there are 3 lyre-tail anthias, a sailfin tang, and a pair of clowns. Pajama cardinals are more than likely to do very well with these guys and cause no issues. And now that we have the fish picked out, I'm going to go ahead and bag them up. Typically, we always bag our fish with oxygen. It doesn't matter if they are being shipped or if we're just sending them home to someone going 5 minutes away. We always want to put oxygen in that bag with them to make sure they survive. Additionally, I typically will do 3 bags if I'm going to ship the fish, but I'm I'm just doing a quick video here, so we're just doing 2 bags for this one. So at this point in the video, you kind of have a choice here, and it really depends on your system. On the Red Sea system, I like to use this little rigid airline tubing thing that we've made because I can just sit it on the edge of the tank. Whereas if you've got a custom tank like the one in this picture here, that one's got thicker teeth in the overflow. So sometimes if I'm putting fish into my main display tank, I'll run a piece of airline tubing and wrap it around the tooth, as you can see in the video. To put the fish in the bucket, you can undo the rubber band like I did on the first bag. On the second bag, I kind of got fed up with it and just decided to cut it open. Either one is totally fine. I typically only like to cut the last bag though, because I've had times where I've gotten the fish stuck in between the bags and that was not a good experience. So I like to avoid doing that if possible. So to start your actual siphon here, you just want to plop the rigid plastic hook in there and then go ahead and just suck on the end of the tube a little bit and you'll start to get some water coming out. Then this is where you kind of set the drip speed. So you go ahead and you tie a little knot and then you slowly tighten it up, and we shoot for about 4 inches of continuous drip before we get droplets. So now that we've got the drip acclimation running, we're gonna let it go for about 30 minutes. A lot of people recommend to go for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. That's totally fine. Just make sure it's not really much more than that. That can be a little stressful on the fish. On top of that, I like to recommend that you cover the top of the bucket they're sitting in. Fish are very much stimulated by what they see, so if you black them out, it'll kind of chill them out. Furthermore, you're gonna want to bail the bucket every 5 to 10 minutes. This is because the new salt going in is a different salinity than the salt that's already in there. So you'll actually have a layer of different solution salts sitting on top of each other. So if you're not mixing it and pulling water out, the fish actually really aren't getting acclimated. So you want to make sure you're bailing. It's very critical. So another thing I like to do is always add my fish into a dark aquarium rather than when it's all lit up and stuff. There's 2 reasons for that. The first is that fish tend to be very territorial. So if you add new fish in with the lights off, for some reason the other fish don't seem as aggressive. The other part of that is that these days we're all running really high powered LEDs. So that can be fairly stressful on the fish as well. So a dark situation is a little better for acclimation. Another really important tip I have is to check if the fish you're getting are coming from the same system. If they're not, you're probably going to want to acclimate them separately because mixing water from different systems can cause a lot of stress. They might be at different salinities. For example, one fish might be coming out of a reef tank where the salinity is high, and another fish might be coming out of a quarantine holding system where it's low. So just make sure to check with your local fish store if that's the case, or send your online vendor an email. So now that the fish are done acclimating, it's very important that we net the fish out and put them into the tank rather than pouring the water into the tank. This is because we put copper and other anti-parasitical things into our water that is harmful to reef life. So the last thing we want to do today is mix up some new salt water to go back in. If you did the drip acclimation process right, your tank probably ended up blowing bubbles because you lost system volume coming out. So you just want to replace the same amount of salt water you took out. Alright everybody, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to this video so you can see more content. And make sure to head over to our website. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. Thanks and have a great day.